Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. Last season we barely had a Friday show to do. This season with Champions League and everything else, we've got so many Friday shows and so many different match reactions. Although, as you'll notice by the thumbnail, different kind of thumbnail for the Champions League ones, because I thought I don't just want a generic match reaction thumbnail. We want something a little bit different. From that point of view, so as always, get your thoughts, your comments in. The player of the match poll should already be in the chat, so you can get your votes in on that. We'll come back to that at the end of the show. Obviously, we're mainly going to be talking about the Vålerenga game, and we're going to touch a little bit on Everton as well, and just anything else that comes up. I know what social media is like. A lot of things gets thrown up. One of Mark Skinner's quotes has been thrown around today by men's football Twitter, I see, after a potential little dig at Amro with one of his comments. Have you two seen that one? I found it quite funny, I can't lie. But for context, for people who haven't seen the quote, Mark was, I don't know what he was asked. I've not seen the actual question, but he was talking about the Mayer penalty. And he said that he's not one of those managers that look away when people are taking penalties because it doesn't matter. It's down to the technique, not the wind or something like that in the moment or something like that it was. So, yeah, clearly a little bit of a, but is what it is. I find it quite funny. But there we go. Before I forget, because this is the last show before Sunday, which is when the Content Awards voting closes. So I'm going to shout this out one more time. If you haven't already voted for us in the Football Content Awards, that is the website. You can head over there and vote for us. So you go to that website, it will bring up this screen. You click us in the drop-down, All for United WFC under Creators, or you go to the Instagram page, find this post, and literally just tag our account. That's the quickest way of doing it. Just go to this Instagram post, tag All for United WFC. It's that easy. Voting closes on Sunday night, midnight on Sunday. So only a couple of days left to vote, and it would mean a lot to us, I'm sure, when the voting comes around. The voting closes this Sunday. The finals is not till the 20th November, so we've got a bit of time to wait after voting closes on Sunday. Anyway, right, firstly, Barry, Andy, thanks for joining. Andy, I'll start with you. How are you doing? He's not realised he's muted.
You muted me. Yes, I am fine. I have already voted for you as well. And yeah, Jess, sorry I was touching up my makeup, but we're here now. Yeah, all good. Working the fanzine, enjoying the run of games. Wishing I could get to more Euro aways, but Stockholm destroyed my wallet. But yeah, lots of domestic games to get to as well, and home European. So it's a great running leading up to Christmas. Really looking forward to the rest of it.
These next couple of months are going to be chaos with games and all kinds of things, with Champions League and the league and all going on. So lots to look forward to there. Barry, for yourself?
I'm struggling to unmute there. I don't know why that was. Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's been a good old week. I'm just really pleased that we've had a Champions League game. It's under our belt. It's done now. The first one's out the way, and we got the important 3 points. So yeah, very happy, very pleased with all that's going on, and looking forward to the show tonight.
Nice one. Yes, it should be a good hang about. I'm all for people enjoying the shows as they normally are, but I enjoyed the last show very much. Is that because I wasn't on it? Is that what's going on here? Yeah, I did miss the Chelsea reaction on Monday, but yeah, couldn't be helped. Couldn't do it, so there we go. Yeah, let's dive into the game and all kinds of things. Should we talk about the lineup to start with? I think the big, I'm going to call it an omission because I thought she would start. It's Freeland and Rolfer. It's probably the only one that I would have thought would have started. Stacey, I'll start with you. Any, I guess, issues with the lineup, or do you think are we at a point now where that kind of goalkeeper, back four, midfield three picks itself, and then it's more the front three where the kind of change is going to happen?
I think so. The midfield three, I'm not as sure of at the moment. Back four and keeper is obvious. Midfield two is a definite. I think the left, you're looking at Rolfo or Mallard. Mallard started the game really well, so I think she's worth a start in any game. The way we played in those first few games when Rolfo wasn't available, she scored 2 braces and supported the attack really well. Worked well with Toon drifting out left, so I think Mallard's always worth a shout. But a player with the class of Rolfo, we have got some areas of the squad now are such that you're happy with a couple of different options. So I think Turlin's always got to be the first choice starter. And in the last week or so, my mind's changed on the right and the 10. Initially, I thought Park is a bigger upgrade on Bizet on the right than she is on Toon at the 10. But more recently, I'd quite like to see Park in the middle with judging man on availability. Bizet coming back in on the right and see how that works. I think there's room to switch around that and maybe give Toon a bit of a rest and see Park through the middle. Which I think rather than the lineup, I think it was the instructions to players that baffled me more on Wednesday night. Park kept drifting inside from the right, leaving the right wing wide open with nothing happening in front of Jade. And occasionally Zidiotti was pushed up to the right wing, covering that space that was left. And that's the bit I didn't really understand, to be honest. The lineup, no issues, but what players were told to do. It can't just be that Park decided, I'm not going to attack the right wing today. I'm going to go and tuck in and get in Toon's way and Hinney's way. It's got to be instructions, which I don't understand, because everything that we've been doing really well lately just wasn't really happening.
We're going to talk about that, I'm sure, especially in the first half, because there was so many occasions it would be like Jade was almost the right winger because Park had gone so central, which she does anyway. She does naturally drift into the centre anyway. But yeah, Barry, for yourself, just on the lineup itself, as I said, do you kind of agree that we're kind of at that point where the back 4-3 in front kind of pick itself and it's more what he's going to do with the front three?
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you've got 12 players. You kind of have to pick them. That's where you are. But yeah, it is. Like, the goalkeeper's not going to change. That defence is now settled. Now that we've got ourselves that quality player in Zigotti, we don't need Dominic Janssen to step up into the midfield and try and be that screen, I suppose. So it's meant we've been able to drop her back, which was handy with everything that happened with Millie Turner and her injury. So, that back four is that back four. I think we've lauded the middle three in terms of Zigotti and Hinney and Cooney, because it has been quite settled. But I'm really intrigued and in some ways a little bit pleased to hear what Andy was saying there about potentially exploring the possibilities of sticking Park in the 10 and sticking Bizet up on the right-hand side, because that was something we brought up in the Chelsea game, actually, that potential to put Park there, because she does, as you just said, wonder. She drifts. She's like Jack Reacher. She's a drifter. It's what she does. And I just think that would be a really interesting thing to watch, to see her just given that license to roam. And we know that we can get good crosses from the likes of Rolfer. We know we can get good crosses from Jess Park, but we can also get them from Céline Bizet and Jade Riviere as well. And I just do think it would be really, really interesting. Would I have done that against Vålerenga? I don't know. I think of all of our Champions League games, that's the one that I would probably most want to experiment with. But I agree with what Becky just said there. Maybe Sunday, Everton is another opportunity for us to do these things. But I think that's the beauty about Park, is that actually she could play anywhere along that sort of three. And I think she would do incredibly well at it, because she just looks for the pockets of space and drives. And I think that is the sign of a very good player. So was I overly surprised? No, there's people talking about Rolfer potentially starting over Mel. But I think it's potato on that one, really, isn't it? It's flick a coin and see which one you want to start. And so no, I don't think there's no. I've said it a million times when we have this question. I don't really have a drama with the 11 that he's picking, and actually, in terms of, I can't really call it depth, but in terms of the replacements that we have in general, I'm quite content with them, and the ones that should just be being like impact players are being the impact players. So yeah, it's all good.
I think as well, we've nearly got the fully fit squad back. I think it's only, Galton and Turner are now the only two that are kind of out. And by the sounds of it from the press conference this morning, Galton could be back for Sunday. So then it will just be Turner who's out until potentially the new year anyway, from that one. But I was relatively happy with the line. I said that for me, it was only Rolfo. I thought you get Rolfo in for Champions League, and to not see a start was a little bit strange. But yeah, so I'm not entirely sure on that. But it's one game. I think when we play PSG, Lyon, Wolfsburg, these kind of teams, I would imagine she starts, to be honest. And to be fair, Mallard I don't think was bad in the game. She needs to look up a bit more. I'm sure we'll talk about that when we talk about some of our chances. But in general, I thought she was all right. And from that point of view, and before we talk about on the pitch, I just want to talk. I'm going to ask you both the same kind of question, but Andy, I'll start with yourself again on this one. Just I guess what it meant seeing the players walking out, then the Champions League anthem kind of played as well. Obviously, it's slightly different to the men's one, but it's still a Champions League anthem. Just that moment, because there was a kind of just everyone I spoke to about the game, like that was almost like the best moment, almost just watching the team walking out. I mean, for anyone who was there, by the way, this is a really strange tangent. For anyone who was there, did it feel like a cinema to anyone else pre-game with all the adverts blaring so loud? I didn't realise they were showing them on the screen, but it was like TV ads, wasn't it? And things like that going on, but they were blasting it so loud over the speakers. So I feel like I'm in a cinema. We were waiting for the players to come out, but it was, for me, I thought it was a really cool moment, just watching them come out under the Champions League, I guess, header or whatever you call it. And obviously the Champions League just everywhere. The amount of media and press, I've never seen so many at the stadium before. But yeah, so Andy, just if you could sum up your emotions watching the team walking out at that moment.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I had a season ticket at Old Trafford for 21 years and membership before that. So I've been there for countless evening matches at Old Trafford with the men's Champions League music, and no matter how many times you hear that in the build up to a match, and there's something about evening matches as well that just adds to the atmosphere. So, it's there in the memory from lots and lots of European nights at Old Trafford, which, I've not been to Old Trafford for a few years now, as long as I've been watching the women, and there wouldn't have been as many European nights as there used to be anyway. So kind of a long time coming to get that feeling again. And, we've had the qualifiers, we had PSG at LSV 2 years ago, we had Bran the other week, but this was Champions League proper, and the music was properly belted out, and it was the kind of thing where we know we can drink in the stands in league matches now, but we couldn't on this one. So it potentially would have been a get in the ground, get a pint, and go to your seat a minute before kickoff. Not on Wednesday. It was like, what time is it? We need to get in for this music. We can't be under the stands while they start playing that music out. And yeah, I agree with you with I think the darker evenings and the floodlights add to that cinematic effect that you mentioned, and everything seemed to have a bit of an extra shine when the teams were out and we were kind of gearing up for that music and the introduction.
No, absolutely. And as James said there, it was the same advert. It was the same like 5 adverts because they played them at half time as well. Which is then when I noticed they had a screen, because obviously where I was in South Stand, there's no screen opposite at the other end of the pitch. So the screen was to my right in the corner, so I couldn't actually see it. Which wasn't ideal. On that very quickly as well, I kind of wish that, and this is just a personal preference, that they moved everyone into 2 stands, because there was a massive pocket of people in East Stand in one corner, then 3 blocks empty, and then where you guys were, I'm assuming that's where you were, Slater, in the far corner of East. South Stand, where I was pretty much empty. I don't know why they opened that. There was probably a few hundred of us in there. Didn't look full at all. And then West was the same. You kind of had 1 block where it was really full, 3 blocks that were pretty much empty and had about 10 people in them. I don't quite know why they spread everyone out like that. Like, I don't know why they didn't just push everyone into 2 stands and make it look full, but that's a personal preference anyway. That's just what I would do. Or leave us in North Stand where our tickets actually are, but there we go. Barry, for yourself, obviously watching them walking out and just that moment really, as I put on the tweet, 7 years kind of led to this almost. Been trying to get to this moment, and we finally got there.
Well, exactly that. I mean, you're all talking about the cinema and even the floodlights. I only did floodlights the last time I went to the cinema with Connor, but that was just so I could see where the seat was, because I couldn't see over his hair. So we had to sort ourselves out there. But look, I think in all seriousness, when you start thinking about these sorts of things, they're little milestones. And I think for a lot of us, having watched the women's team now since 2018, that there's some people that have been going sort of week in, week out ever since that happened and it started off. But I think it's almost like the United women's team is a bit like our baby in that respect. You know, you're seeing them hit these milestones for the first time. 2018, their first match. Then, of course, you win the championship. Then, of course, we have our first game in the WSL. And you see them doing all these little things. And this is just another one of those. And it's been a tremendously hard climb to get to this point. And it's been something that the club has wanted, the fans have wanted, the players have wanted. And it just helps to show, I think, how, you know, like I say, 7 years ago, we've only just started again and we're having to play in the championship. And now here we are in the Champions League, the opportunity to play at the very top table of European football, to play against some teams that we can only dream of. So it's a really big thing. And I think, you know, for you guys talking about the music, that's lovely. The Women's Champions League music probably doesn't quite hold the same sort of level of memory as the men's does, as Andy says there. You know, that's always going to be a big thing. I can't say that I've sat there and heard the Women's Champions League music a ridiculous number of times, but I know what that will mean to the players, and I know what that means to the people that are there at the games every single time, and what a big moment that is for this club. So just genuinely, I think it's just that. It's proof of where we are. It's taken us up that little bit further. It's something that the club should be really, really proud of, the fact that we've managed to get there, because again, it's breaking that monopoly. You know, generally the teams that get the chance to play in the Champions League are Chelsea, City and Arsenal. So the fact there's another team that's in there and that's had the opportunity to do that, it's wonderful. So what does it mean? I think it's a bit like watching your kids go to big school, I would imagine. You know, that's what's happened. It's like they finally made it in, they're all dressed up, and that was the photo in front of the front door.
Certainly is. And as James was saying, our next milestone is the first away win in Europe, which hopefully will be next week against Atletico Madrid. Although they had a massive win on match day one. It was 6-0 it finished in the end, Atletico Madrid. So yeah, we're gonna have to keep an eye out for them. But hopefully we get that ticked off already. That'll be quite something as we move on. Right, speaking of moving on, let's talk about the game itself. I'm actually going to jump straight to the penalty actually and just ask you both your thoughts on it and just whether you think it is or not. Because I believe I really don't want to misquote him. I think I read somewhere the Vålerenga coach was not very happy with it, saying that it isn't. And surprised when VAR's in use that still got given. Baron, I'll start with you first. This one, do you think it is or it isn't?
It's undoubtedly a penalty. It's a penalty on every planet. And the people that think it's not, I think, have lost the plot entirely. And I'll explain to you why. You're wrong, Tyrone, on this one. I will explain to you why. I think it's very close. Like the distance that they're moving, 100%. So I can see why some people might think it's harsh because she couldn't move it. But for me, the difference is what happens if it doesn't hit her hand. Where is that ball going? And the answer to that is to a Manchester United player. So the usage of that hand stops the ball from reaching its intended target. And in the box, you just can't do that. You can't have a ball hit the body part that is the arm and stop you from being able to play a ball that you would have been able to play otherwise. For that reason, it is 100% a penalty. It doesn't matter that it was really, really close. Excuse me. It stops you from having the ability to have a chance on goal and a shot on goal. And I'll be really intrigued to see what the ref has got to say, as in Ian, that is, if he was about. I'd love to know what his thoughts are. For me, it's incredibly simple. The ball, the arm is away from the body. It clearly moves the ball away. Did she mean it? No. But handball is handball. And there's a time and a place for accidental handball. That may have been accidental, but it negatively impacted the attack. And so as a result of that, has to be given. If that was slightly different in the area and it wasn't really impacting the attack, I don't think you'd give it. But I think in the context of the game and where the ball was going, 100% that's a penalty.
So a pretty decisive yes from Barry. Andy, is it as clear for you, do you reckon?
Well, I was at the opposite end of the East Stand, so I didn't get a good view of it on the night. And to be honest, I haven't watched it back, but I can confidently say that it absolutely was a penalty. And I was going to say that anyway, but I think the points Barry made, I don't know what the rules are on handball these days. I don't really know what the full rules are on offsides these days, but logic says at least that if use of the hand, intentional or not, stops an attack from progressing, then you've got to give it. So 100% yes, it was a penalty.
I'm glad I didn't make it up as well. Erling has backed up what I said there. Yeah, I thought I read that somewhere that he wasn't very happy.
I was talking to Andy backstage whilst Connor was sorting his hair out, and it was quite entertaining because Andy went, did you get to the match? And I went, no, I wasn't there. So, somebody said they thought they'd seen you. Hello, person in the background there. It's like watching BBC News. But I said, no, I don't think you did see me. But I think what's happened here is people have got me mixed up with the Vålerenga coach, because there does seem to be a bit of a similarity there. So, possibly.
Potentially. If you see me looking down, I'm trying to rewatch it myself just to see if it, because I can't lie, when it was initially given, obviously I'm at the other end of the pitch anyway, I was in self stand, and when it got given, I was sat with Ella and I said, yeah, definitely handball, that looks outside the box to me though. Now I've watched it back, it's definitely inside, so if it's given, it's definitely a I think I agree with what JJ put. It's harsh, but they're going to get given these days because, as JJ said, penalty rules are so blurred. You never know what's given and what isn't, which is what I've always kind of stood by. I think for me, it should be if it hits your hand, it's a penalty because then that makes it easy.
If you go back to the old rules, I say the old rules as if they were many years ago, but it was if your arm is outside of the silhouette of a normal position for your hands to be in. And it's out there. And the distance shouldn't matter. Like I say, you put the ball into a player, you stopped us from attacking, and you used your hand to do that. You're not allowed to use your hand to do it, so that's a foul. Like it's got to be. And if it's not, then the world's gone absolutely mad. And I believe what the kids call it now would be utter woke nonsense.
I never thought I'd be hearing you say that. On the penalty itself, I want to just have a quick word on Maya Tissier, actually. She is obviously not the penalty taker. She got the goal. And I think it's quite fitting, actually, that she obviously took over the captaincy and is now, well, she's breaking records all over the place in terms of consecutive WSL starts, doing those kind of things. She's now going to be in the history books for the first player from a United point of view to score in the Women's Champions League, I guess, proper phase, if you want to call it that, as well. So, Andy, I'll start with you on this one. Just obviously the penalty itself, if you want to talk about it, it's a pretty routine Maya penalty, in my opinion, into the corner. But the fact that it was her that got she hasn't missed one yet, has she, for us? I don't think.
Not that I recall.
She's taken a few now. I don't think she's missed. So.
She took loads at the World Sevens, didn't she? And, when she was stepping up, that is what went through my mind. How many attempts is she going to get at this? Are we going to see a repeat live in the stadium? But yeah, that was something that went through my head as well. The kind of how fitting it was. If you were going to write the story, you'd write it that our young captain. Maya's story itself is impressive. Coming over from a little island and onto the mainland and carving out a career in football. And she was still so young when she came to us, but she's already had 4 years of regular WSL football at Brighton, and just stepped into the role with us. We thought she was going to come as a right back, and there she is, right in the middle, running our defence. Until Dom has moved back into defence from midfield, it's been a question of long term who is our partner for Maya. Because as much as we love Millie, she's that bit older, but I think a lot of people have thought we need a long term partner for Maya. So she is she's the face of the future of the club. She took on that captain's armband at such a young age. She's so dominant with us. She's the kind of tackle she puts in. She's epitomises what kind of the passion of football is all about, and she gets that first goal. even if it shouldn't have been a penalty, you take that for kind of directing it that way to the story of Mayer, our young captain coming up and scoring that first goal and getting us underway. And I think with the story of getting to the Champions League that we touched on earlier, 2 years ago, of course, we would have loved to have beat PSG and qualified for the Champions League then. And if that perfectly good goal at the Parc de France would have counted, then who knows what would have happened. But I think the trajectory of the story following that, and then not qualifying for Europe at all, and then getting in through 2 rounds of qualifiers this time, it kind of makes that story and that satisfaction all the better. And getting that first win and the first goal being Mayer Tissier is it's exactly as you'd script it. People often say you couldn't write this, but I think that's exactly what you would write if you were scripting it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think I'm sure we'll talk a bit about Mayer towards the end as well when we come to player of the match, because she's currently leading the poll as well. When we come to that one, I just very quickly on Olivia's question of what the odds Mayer stays on penalties with Frida. I don't think it changes. I think it's been decided Mayer's the penalty taker, and I don't think it matters who's on the pitch. I think she will stay the penalty taker regardless on that one, unless she wants to give one up. If we get like a couple of months in and Frida maybe hasn't got a goal yet, we do see that happen where she might give it to somebody else, but I don't see that changing regardless from that point of view. Paris, same kind of question to yourself in terms of the penalty itself, and I guess just what it meant that it was Mayer that got us that first one, really.
Going what you just said there, yeah, absolutely. Whether Frida starts or not is kind of irrelevant because Mayer's the captain, so he kind of gets first dibs, I would think, on that sort of thing. Listen, I think first things first, I don't think anybody, if you'd have been asked before the game who's going to score the first Champions League goal for Man United, would have picked Mayer Tissier. But I do think if you were asking people who you would like to score the first goal for Manchester United, I think there'd have been a fair few votes potentially for Mayer. She is certainly somebody who I think embodies the spirit of Manchester United, and we've seen great leadership skills from her. I think so far we can certainly see many of the players, and I do think it's quite important that we do take that moment, like you say, to talk about Mayer and think about how well she has managed to lead the team. Obviously, since Katie Zellum disappeared to America and then came back again because London is a nice place, and whatever Jess says, Connor, it is a nice place. So, listen, I think it's really good. It's fitting that she's the sort of player that would get her. I think if you're thinking of people, not necessarily even just about history, but about players for Manchester United that sort of embody the team, you'd have been looking at someone like a Mayer, somebody like an Ella Toone, potentially, one of those sorts of players to go in the history books for that. And I think, getting Mayer on that was superb. For what it's worth, I didn't for 1 second think she would miss it. She seems like a very, very cool customer. She will miss one eventually because everybody does eventually. I don't think anybody's going to retire with a 100% penalty record, but she absolutely nailed it. And it was a really good penalty. I think the depressing thing is that was the only goal because there should have been more. But I get a feeling that's where you're going.
I'm literally going to ask that next. But what I was just going to quickly say on what you just said there about no one would have, I guess, had Mayer down as potentially first scorer or only scorer in the game. I feel quite bad because if TikTok Jess is watching this, I was with her pre-game and talking about the fancy football that everyone plays and for the Champions League. And she had Mayer in a team. I'm pretty sure I told her to take her out, and she may have done that. So I might have to double check this after the show. I'm fairly sure I told her to take Mayer out. She won't score. So, apologies. There we go. Never listened to me. I said Bayern was going to beat Barca, and they got smashed like 7-1. And I said it was going to be so close that game.
We said that. I couldn't believe that, but I also now understand why it is that you didn't play the Predictions League this year. So, sensible.
So just don't listen to me, I guess. But listen to me on some things, because right, I'm just scrolling that. Artie's asked a question there about we've always had caps. I believe so. I'm trying to think if there's been any other. We have had others take penalties, but core main penalty taker, Slater, you might remember further back. It's always been those three, right?
Well, Alex Greenwood was the first captain in that championship season and did take the penalties. I don't think it's a rule that the captain always takes the penalties. I think with Greenwood, she was clearly our best player at that time. And, defender taking penalties, yeah, but she was clearly our best player at the time. Katie Zellum, captain or not, you'd pick as a penalty taker. So I don't think it is the captain takes the penalties, but I think it is a interesting coincidence that it's gone that way, and I think that's a pretty cool observation.
Yeah. So as long as they keep scoring, that's. Although I was getting told off by John Commode a little bit earlier. Can't find the comment now, but no, there it is. Remember when Charlie said didn't recall Zellum missed a penalty, and she did. Zellum missed like the next 2 out of 3 that she took after Charlie said that. So if Maya starts missing penalties now, feel free to blame me, because that will be my fault. What can you do? I'm only just saying what the stats are. There was a stat actually that we haven't lost. I'm going to say this on here, a little spoiler for you or whatever else. I might tweet this before the Everton game. I believe there's a stat out there. We've never lost in the WSL in the month of October. We're one of the only teams to do it. And obviously we played Chelsea in October last week, and I got that stat before the game. I thought I'm not going to tweet that before this game, just in case.
Now you said it before our last October WSL game against Everton.
So Sunday's
at the Hill
important.
Dickinson.
We've got to keep that record going. So there we go. Right, let's talk about some of these missed chances. Then I'm not going to do this in order because there was just so many. That can be quite difficult as a host of a show.
Always a valid request, though.
Yeah, I'm not going to do this in any particular order. I'm just going to ask you both about the missed chances in general because I feel like we had quite a lot. Obviously, there was the one before the goal. Mallard kind of. She's got to square it to turn, and she's wide open in the middle. Takes a shot, and then has one that's blocked off the line. Jess Park has a one-on-one right after half time, straight at the goalkeeper. Turland had 2 one-on-ones in that second half. One went wide, and one hit straight at the keeper. So I think on football we had 4 big chances missed in the game, which is a lot. For a big chance to count as a stat, you've got. I don't know what it is exactly how they count, but it's got to be a good chance for you to miss from there. See, whichever one of you wants to start really in terms of why do you think it was? Because we definitely had the chances. The stats say that. The eye test says that. Like even in the gap, I never thought Vålerenga would have scored. It was just like, why are we not just killing this game off? Like we definitely had the chance to do it. So why do we think that is? Because we've got goal scorers. Mallard's the joint top scorer in the league. Turland scored so many goals in the qualifiers. You've got players like Rolfo who can score. Jess Park can clearly score. Toon is there as well. Like we've got players that can score. But we just couldn't for whatever reason.
Chances get missed, but when you say 4 big chances in a game, and in such a big game as that, I mean, it's not the biggest game we're playing in the Champions League this season. It's on paper, it's probably the easiest one, but it's still a big occasion. The first Champions League match, going into that league phase and trying to get the points on the board. I don't know. Like you said, the players who miss those chances can score. What I find interesting is that we look at how we played and the players drifting what we would see as out of position, clearly instructed, rather than players drifting and losing concentration. But it didn't feel like we played the attacking way that we have done recently. But then we had 4 big chances. So 4 big chances that you would expect to score is good going in any game. So it's a bit of a contradiction that it felt like we didn't really attack the way we can, but we created those chances. But to then not take them, if 2 of them get taken and it's 3-0, you're probably calling it a comfortable win, despite the observation of the players kind of not staying wide, not getting forward when you'd expect them to. So I think it could have made it a much more settled night, because at 1-0, getting near the end, you're always thinking just one break from them and the story changes. But maybe it was pressure. Maybe it was fatigue. We've had a lot of games in a short space of time. But from how we've been playing and the goals we've been scoring, Chelsea and Arsenal obviously aside, you expect those players to score. And you hope it's a blip on the occasion rather than kind of previous seasons' worries coming back in where we created lots of chances and didn't score. Or that United thing, because the men's team are creating lots of chances and not scoring. So all I'm going to hope that it is the occasion and the fact that it was that first Champions League and a little bit of nerves, because if it carries on, then it will be a worry going forward.
I think that's the thing, isn't it, Barry? Because like we talk about this almost every season, it feels like, about the lack of clinicality, I guess, on that one. So what do you put it down to in this particular one?
I wish I could put my finger on it, Connor, is the answer to that. I mean, 16 shots in total, 7 on target, 5 saves. Let's be clear, decision-making in the final third is important. And there's always an argument for, we've said we want people to take shots from distance and to have those opportunities, but you've got to try different things. And as Andy says, I don't think we can be sad or annoyed that people are having a go and that they're trying. I think the problem is that this is, I think, a bit more of a pattern than I would like to see. And I'm talking about that on certain players. Now, I absolutely adore Melvine Mallard, but that was unforgivable. It's that's 1-0 all over it. She's just got to put that to the side and Her Majesty's going to bury that. Like, that was a duck in a barrel, ready to go. Or a fish in a barrel, sorry, because you don't shoot ducks in barrels. I mean, you shouldn't shoot fish in barrels either, really. It's quite dangerous. But if you're going to use the saying, use it properly. And that's what it should have been. And I'm really, really annoyed that she didn't do that. Having said that, she's seen an opportunity. She's seen a chance to shoot and goal. It's understanding who's in a better position and when you should shoot and when you should pass. It's quite funny, really, because we were doing a PE lessons day in basketball, and this was the whole thing. When do we intercept? When do you pass? What do you do? And it's easy for us to sit here now and talk about every single one because we get the chance to analyse it. We can watch it. We can watch it 3 or 4 times, see it from different angles, think about different things, and it's easy for us to pick it apart. But the God's honest truth is they're stood there and they've got a millisecond to think about what they're going to do, and then they've got to do it. And it's a bit like us talking on here, to be honest with you, Connor. More often than not, I say the right thing or a decent thing. Every once in a while, I say something that maybe I regret a little bit later. And it's only natural. You make a decision and you go with it. I would rather they were taking the shots than not, but equally, they've got to think about what they're doing. And that, to me, is potentially something that's going to come over time in terms of getting to know where people are, how they play. I think Mel and Her Majesty haven't quite managed to get that link up when Mallard's on the left-hand side as much as we'd potentially like. But yeah, it's difficult to put it down to one thing because it could be a number of things. It really could. So yeah, I don't know that I've necessarily got the answer on that one for you, but I do think that it just comes down to decision making in that final third and understanding when people are in better places. Because we saw it in the Chelsea game as well. We spoke about that. Ella Toon had a moment where she was over on the right hand side and she could have put a cross in, and it looked like she just kicked it, and it wasn't to anybody. There were 3 possible options in the box. One that was a straight pullback, one that was a pullback in the middle, one was at the far post, and she's just like, it was like watching me play football. I'll just stick it in the box, and then it's somebody else's job to get in there, and that's not Man United, and that's not Ella Toon. So there's just something about us when we're in those positions that we don't necessarily make the right decision. But we have seen that from Mel a couple of times, not making the right decision. We saw it last season with her, holding on to a ball and taking a touch when she should have just shot. I don't know. So, yeah, I'm going to reserve judgment for a bit, but it is worrying me a little bit, her decision-making sometimes in the final third.
It's one of those as well, when we come up against, I'm sure we'll talk about it close to the time, but when we're playing the likes of Lyon and, well, I was going to say PSG, but they got battered by Wolfsburg. Okay, more Wolfsburg now, and these kind of teams, you're not going to get as many chances as we got against Vålerenga. You're probably going to get 3 or 4, really. Same as you did against Chelsea. Obviously, we took one of them with Sandberg, but you're not going to get loads. So you need to be able to be in a position to take them when they do come around. And it just worries me, because we actually said this after the first game of the season, although we won it 4-0. against Leicester, we were saying then like how many chances did we need to hit the target. Our shots on target ratio to shots is quite poor, really. I wonder if someone could do the actual maths on it, but every time we tweet the stats after every game, I would like when Andrew sends them through, I'm like, look at the difference between shots on target to shots. There's always a massive gap between them, which is never good. Right, I don't really know. I've got so many questions whizzing around my head. I'm going to move on to something just very quickly, just away from the game, before I come back to some individual players. Skinner said after the game, and he said this before the game as well, actually, that it's not an official target, but they're kind of looking at between 9 and 12 points. That's what they think is going to be enough to get you through into the top. What is it? Not the top 4. What's the next down? Is it 5 to 12?
Yeah, 5 to 12.
That's what you think is going to be, which it should be, to be fair. I actually think 12 points is going to get you into the top 4, which is the way the league is looking and everything else, but that's a whole other thing. My question is, do we think we can get that? Obviously, we've already got 3, so we're a third of the way there to 9. We've got Atletico Madrid next week away, then we've got Lyon and PSG at home, and then Juventus away. So it's a simple question, really. Do we think we can get 9 to 12 points out of the 5 games that we've got left? Technically, we only need 6 to hit that target. So 2 more wins potentially from what we've seen in this one game. It's hard to judge off one game, but from what we've seen this season, is 9 to 12 points attainable, do you think, with the teams that we've got to face?
I'd say absolutely. I think this has been said to death, but it's the key feature of our squad at the minute, that it is a team rather than a squad. And that's the worry, that in certain positions we can rotate and we can replace players, but there are some positions where just like either fullback is taken out and our whole dynamic changes. So if we can keep a solid 11 for each game, we're good enough to beat anybody. Lyon, obviously the standout team. 2 years ago it was PSG that were too big for us, but I'm not scared of them now. So there's only really Lyon that you think, even at our best, can we turn them over? But the rest of the teams, they won't be easy, don't get me wrong, but we can play. And with our best 11, or close to, we are good enough to compete with anybody. So I think we're well in with a shout of getting in that 5 to 12 bracket. And if 9 points does it, I think we're well on the way to doing it.
Yeah, I think we can. Whether we will or not is the big question. Can we? Absolutely. But if we have many more games like this where we don't necessarily take the chances that are presented to us, then it could be an issue. Listen, we're going to be facing Atletico Madrid. They're doing incredibly well in Spain at the moment. So you look at them as a team, it's going to be difficult going to Spain, having to do that. We've been involved and in the running for every single game we've played so far this season. And at no point have I felt like we've been outplayed or been in a situation where we should particularly worry about these things. So whilst I don't necessarily feel it in my gut that we're going to go to Spain and get 3 points, I do have hope that we can do so. It's very difficult. We're playing against teams that we've not played against before. So from our own point of view, even from me, I don't watch Atletico Madrid regularly. I don't know how well they play. So with that in mind, it's facing the unknown. And it's possible for some of these players that's also the case. You might see a few videos of them, but, I see a lot of videos of Andy when he comes on here and that sort of thing. But until you meet Andy, it's a very different world. You're not necessarily, you can't just take people by what you see. So you've got to have a chance to get into it. And with that, they've only got 90 minutes. This isn't like the past where you'd have 2 legs and you could go and play them. And then you've got a chance to play them again. So you can try and pull that back. It's a very different world. So I do think we've got the chance to at least draw against Atletico Madrid, which I think is more than doable. PSG have not been at their best this season in France. And so as a result, that is a definite winnable game for us, and it's at home as well, which is equally good. Wolfsburg are a very good German side and have been doing well still in Germany, so they will be an interesting opposition. I think that's the thing. The 2 away games that you've got there are going to be very tough. Leon are going to have to do better than they did against Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal did all right holding them off, and it was a very tight game for the main. A lot of people claiming how good they were. I don't think necessarily that they played as well as they could have done there against Arsenal. And if they turn up at LSB trying to play that way, I think there's an absolute chance we walk away from that with a minimum of a draw as well. The Juventus game will be tricky. They are, of course, the champions of Italy. So there's some tough ones there. But even if you draw all those games, that's another 5. That's 8 points. So we're sort of almost there, you know. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of other ones. So do I think we can finish in the top 12? 100%. I've thought that since we started. It's going to be difficult. But whether we do or we don't, I'll be incredibly proud of the girls for getting there and making that step. Anything beyond this now for us is a bonus. And I do think we can do that. So yes, is the answer to your question. But let's be very clear, it's going to be bloody difficult now. This was the one that we should win and get 3 points for, but it ain't going to be easy.
I think that's the thing. I think we can. I don't know. That Leon game I've always looked at as just a free hit. It's just a chance for us to test ourselves, see where we're at. If we lose, I'm not going to... As long as we don't get battered, I'll be like, okay, it's Leon. Like, they're ahead of us. Like, just the way that they are in the structure, everything about their women's team is just ahead of us in where it is. So if we lose to them, I'm not massively fussed. PSG at home, I mean, not to to slag off the former players too much, but Mary Earps is having an absolute shocker over there, to put it in the nicest way possible. So she can definitely be got at, and PSG as a team can definitely be got at. So I think we can win that. Wolfsburg away, again, that to me is almost a bit of a free hit. Just like, let's just see, because that's right after the Manchester derby as well. So we've got PSG, the Manchester derby, and then Wolfsburg within 7 days of each other. So that's really going to... I don't think we're going to beat Wolfsburg, to be honest, for that very reason. I think we beat PSG, maybe get something from the derby, and I think that Wolfsburg game is just going to be a bit of a slow one. And then Juve, I don't know. I think they've not looked great this season, so we can beat Juve, I think, and that's the last one, isn't it? Juve away, so potentially. I think we can. It's really going to depend how fit. I've said this all along. It really depends how fit the squad is going to stay. If it stays as it is now, we've got a chance. What worries me is we keep picking every week. There's like a little niggle. Someone misses out. Like Bizet was out from this one, and like, there's always somebody just missing out on the odd game. Someone mentioned Marad Griffiths earlier. Like, she's in the squad, then she's out of the squad for weeks. Like we keep just picking up little knocks and injuries, and people are just missing out every so often. So yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, we don't know. We'll see. I think this is going to be better to gauge after we've played Madrid next Wednesday, and then we can kind of see where we're at from there. Right, we're 50 minutes. This show has flown by. We've only done 50 minutes. I want to come to player of the match. I'm going to end the poll now. So apologies if you were just about to get your vote in. Andy, who would you have gone for? Or who was your player of the match from Wednesday night?
I think, and I didn't come away thinking that one player stood out. I think it was tricky, what I mentioned earlier about players kind of obviously being instructed to not play the way we've seen them play. I think Park, for carrying out her instructions, probably did very well, but from what we know we can get from Park and what we want from her, that doesn't translate to impressing us in a question like this. But what I did notice was Zigiotti was a bit of everywhere. She was kind of filling in the gaps that you were noticing being left by players playing what we would perceive as out of position. So I liked how she played in the context of how we approach the game. And I think that's probably something that you could call on her with every performance so far, that she does the job. She doesn't shine in a in-your-face kind of way, but she certainly shines in the opponent's faces kind of way, and it shows how much of an important part of our team she's become.
Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment. A couple of players there. Barry, who was yours? I
mean, I agree with Andy. I don't think you can walk away from that game really and vociferously with your whole chest say this person definitely deserved the player of the match award. Intriguingly enough, after Monday, I'm a little bit nervous about doing anything to do with the player of the match, really, because I picked for, my God, that the complaints that were flying in through there.
I saw you try and pin that on me as well.
No, I did not try and pin it on you. What I did say was that if people wanted to affect the result and they definitely wanted somebody else to win it, that the only way they could do that would be to send you a message and say, no, I would have voted for Jess Park or whoever it might be, so that you were then able to look at it fairly and go, well, go on, you know what, that person got this number of votes. But actually more people would have voted for that, so we can change it. Like, you're the only one with that power. I don't. But having said that, the honest truth is that when I turned up tonight, my thoughts were that I probably would have given it to Elizabeth Turland, actually. Was the one that I've looked at. I just thought that from the game that I was watching and from how she was playing, she got herself into some nice positions. She did have a couple of good efforts. Those efforts were generally on target or in and around the goal. But as I say, the truth is that it could have been just about anybody. I do think it's a little bit strange in a way, picking a defender when you consider they've had hardly any real attacks for us to worry about. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yes, I'm struggling to think about last week's game. I could do that. But yes, I can't use Charlie Wall. So that's the honest truth. I would have gone for Elizabeth Turland, but it's not one of those ones like with the penalty where I was my whole chest. I think on this one, I'm quite happy for anybody to win it, but that would have been my choice.
I think, comment that you've just brought up there, what Tyrone's saying. I think last season, you absolutely noticed how good Miyazawa was, because she was absolutely head and shoulders, particularly after Christmas. She was head and shoulders above anybody else in a United shirt every single game. Whereas this season, I think the quality that we've brought in around her, that quality including Dom as a centre-back instead of a centre midfielder, and Zigiotti next to Miyazawa, as well as Park on the right, but also drifting in the middle and having such a big impact. I think that is where now we don't always notice how good she is, because she does it quietly. And I think that observation shows how much we've improved as a first 11 and the quality that has increased throughout mainly the middle of the park. But for kind of the standards that have been raised this season since with the new signings, mainly the two signings, Rolfo's not had the biggest impact yet, but Zigiotti coming into midfield, freeing up Janssen to go into defence, and Park playing pretty much the kind of top right quarter of the pitch, if you like. The standards have been raised so high that Miyazawa is now just one of the players rather than the standout performer.
And genuinely, I don't know how you feel about this, Andy, and I'm not for 1 second trying to start World War III in any way, shape, form or fashion, although if I was, Donald Trump could solve his 9th war, so it wouldn't be a problem. But I would just be very intrigued to see what would happen, how Katie Zellum had performed with someone like Zigotti by her side as well. It would have been really interesting. I think you take Hinnie, she's a beautiful player, she's brilliant at what she does. That's not for 1 second I say we should bring Katie Zellum instead of Hinnie, but I would be intrigued to see, because one of the big things that was often said about Zell was that she's not a 6. She can't play in that position. She's not great defensively, but we are talking a lot about having corners that can't beat the first bleeding player. So to have someone like Katie Zellum who would have been able to take a load of the set pieces and also to have that opportunity to maybe affect the game moving forward a little bit more and not have to worry so much about trying to do the defensive duties, I think might have unlocked someone like Katie Zellum. And it just goes to show how getting someone like Zigotti can just free up a player to play to their strengths rather than to what they feel like they need to do for the team.
I actually think the Katie Zellum of 4 or 5 years ago would be a number 10 in this team, in front of both Zigiotti and Miyazawa, and I think that is where she would thrive rather than playing too deep. I think she was always a player that should have been further forward and played further back out of necessity, and I think she suffered for that and her reputation suffered for it. But I think as a 10 in this team with the midfield we've got now, I think she would have been much more effective than than she was.
Yeah, I agree. I need to tweet it as well, actually, but there is a on Mia's app specifically. She has done a really good interview recently. It's in Japanese, but obviously you can translate it. Where she talks about how she got into that role and how she was showing Mark videos of why she can play that position and everything else, it's a really good interview. I'll try and link it actually in the description. So it's a good interview to go and look at. I'll probably do some quotes of it and stick out there for you tomorrow, actually, from that one, because it was quite cool to read. Yeah, to be honest, my player of the match would have been Mela Tissier, purely because I just feel, obviously she got the goal, and it's always cliche just to go for the goal scorer, but I just think she was just immense throughout the game. You know, she had the most, to have 138 passes and a 98% completion of 138. That is a lot. For context, most players average around 60 to 70 passes in a 70, 80 minute stint, if you want to call it that. She had 138 and I think completed 136. I think it was 135, something like that. So from that point of view, she was immense at the back in terms of blocks and clearances and just getting in the way of everything. I thought she was just brilliant all around, to be honest. So she would have been mine. But I think everyone was a worthy, nominee for this one. And a lot of people got voted. Mela Tissier 48, Jess Park 27, Miyazawa 15, Zagotti 10. So it was close between the other three as well. But certainly a few to choose from on that one. Right, I want to quickly cover Everton. To be fair, I say cover Everton. One question, really, in terms of what your thoughts are going into it in a prediction. So 2 questions, really. Obviously, it's at the new ground. What is it called? Is it the Hill Dickinson or something like that?
That's it.
Hill Dickinson Stadium, which is, I believe, is the first for Everton as well. It's the first time they're playing there, the women's side anyway. The first time they're playing there. So, Andy, 2-part question. What's your thoughts going into it? Would you make any changes or anything like that? And just your score prediction for Sunday.
I think we're enough better than them that we should beat them without overexerting ourselves too much. The only worry on that is, we played Liverpool at Anfield last season and we were much, much better than Liverpool, but we didn't play better that day. I would put that down to Miyazawa not starting for some bizarre reason, but hopefully we don't get an impact like that where the home team get the thrill of the big ground and we shrink away. We've got a kind of team now that I wouldn't expect to shrink away in circumstances like that. I think I'd go for the kind of, I don't know whether to call it a usual starting 11 because there is a bit of question mark over that left side now. But I think Turland, Park on the right, Toon in the 10. If Bizet's fit, I would maybe think about Bizet on the right and Park at the 10. The fullbacks, the midfield 2 and the centre halves pick themselves, I think. And then Mallard or Rolfo. I think Rolfo on the left is where I'd be going. And I think if we play the way we have been, not necessarily the way we did on Wednesday, but if we get Toon drifting across to both wings and doubling up with wingers and the fullbacks bombing down, then I think we're going to be far too much for him as long as we get stuck in and have a go and take the game to him like we should and can. As far as a score prediction, if we do play like that, which I'm more confident that we will than I would be in previous seasons where we would get the occasional 4-0 and then mostly just boring 1-0 struggles against teams that were far better than, I'm going to go with 3-0.
Interesting. And just a quick stat for you, and I'm going to tweet this tomorrow. We're actually unbeaten in all 6 of our away games in the WSL versus Everton. 5 wins, 1 draw. So we've got a pretty good record, Everton away. It's our joint most in terms of visits to a single opponent without ever losing. So we've got a pretty good record when it comes to them, certainly away. So Barry, what's your thinking going into it? Any changes, and then your prediction?
My first thought is, maybe you know the answer to this one, but why is it not good at the Goodison Park?
Are they playing 3 games at this new ground? And we're one of them, I think.
It's very strange because go on, Andy. Do you know why?
Do we still have the rules where they've got to play at least 1 or up to 3 games at the main stadium, men's stadium?
Well, West Ham didn't they?
Did they not?
West Ham didn't last season.
I think when you give Goodison to the women's team, then rules like that kind of go out the window. But I don't know what the deal is with that rule. I know it was the case at some point. I don't know if it's supposed to be enforced or if teams can opt out of it.
That's what I mean. Like the club has given them Goodison Park. I'm not being funny. That's not a Lego stadium.
I mean, I'm glad because I've been to Goodison a few times watching the men, so I'm excited to get to the Hill Dickinson. And my dad, who's 71, he's been to Goodison dozens of times, so he's coming because it's at Hill Dickinson. Because he's 70 and he's getting a new ground ticked off his list. So there's that opportunity as a fan, but without that viewpoint, there's some people who never went to Goodison watching the men, and they're gutted it's not at Goodison because they were excited for that chance.
Very true, and I do see that. It's always nice to tick off a new stadium and all of that sort of thing. Absolutely, but I just think when you've got Goodison Park, it's like why go out for a hamburger when you've got a steak at home, sort of thing. And certainly that's a good ground to be at. But that would be my first thought. My second thought is that Everton are the great pretenders. To be honest with you, they came in with such promise this season, and started well with obviously that good win against Liverpool. But since then, they've been a bit lacklustre. I know Spurs have been doing all right, but they lose 2-0 to them. They lost to London City. They lost to Man City. They lost to Brighton. And they've just drawn, obviously, to Leicester. I mean, the simple truth is that this is a game that if we're being serious, we talk about the fact that we've managed to take a point off of Chelsea, the fact that we drew with Arsenal. This is a game we have to win. We can't afford to do one of those stupid things where we turn up and don't do very well and just end up with a draw. Because that negates all of the previous good work and hard work that's been put in. So it's a game that we should win. I would imagine, having played the way that we played in midweek and not scored, we're probably going to knock a couple in. So I don't feel too bad about that one. The honest truth is that until about 5 minutes ago, I thought we were going to win this game comfortably. But now that you've popped up with that stat, like the absolute moron that you are, I can't believe you would do such a thing. Just for context, right, I've got a mate who's an Arsenal fan, and I'm in a group chat that, to be honest with you, is just an absolute disgrace to be in all the time. They come up with some absolute pants stuff, and he comes up constantly whenever Arsenal score. He's straight in and like, we're brilliant, we're great, and invariably somebody will score against them, and he's like, it didn't quite work out the way it was meant to, and he never learns, and neither do you. It's a strange thing. So there we go. I don't know how that's going to work, so we'll probably lose, and if we do, it's because of you. But I thought we'd win it 4-0, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was torn between 3 and 4 because, like you said, I think first game of the season they kind of fooled everyone into thinking that they were a better side. Well, they are a good. I do actually think that the manager they've got is really good as well, and they are a good team. I don't quite know what's happening to them since the first game of the season, but yeah, I would still expect us to win comfortably to a point. I think we'll probably have one eye on Wednesday, though. Not Wednesday, next Thursday. And there's obviously a couple of shouts for Gabby George to start with that in mind, the fact that we've got Atletico Madrid on Thursday. I can see that. But it is international break after. Is it? I'm pretty sure it is, isn't it? Is it international break after Atletico Madrid?
After that, it's Brighton on the 2nd or 3rd of November.
Yeah, so there is a couple of week gap. Has there any international squad been announced yet? Is it international break or am I making that up?
There's 2 weeks off for whatever reason it is.
Yeah, so it's got to be.
I think so.
But I've not seen any. It's weird. There's not been any squads announced. Usually there's squads by now. But anyway, but my point was they could get a rest there. So depending on obviously on who goes, and potentially Blundell won't start. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her come on though, because we've got to start phasing her in into the team. So yeah, I think. Same with Tissier. She's just come off from injury as well. She came on Wednesday, so hopefully we see more of her in the coming games as well.
It'll also be interesting to see where Blundell plays, whether it's on the left or on the right.
It's got to be on the right, isn't it? Yeah, with Gabby and Anna locking down the
left. Up front if you really wanted to,
I would imagine it's got to be the right, purely because we've got 2 on the left already.
What I mean is he could start Gabby George and then sub Gab off for Hannah. But
yeah,
it would be sensible to obviously make a change for Jade, but that sounds like that's usually still in at the moment. And so, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I say. It'd be interesting. But yes, I would agree. It's probably likely to be the right.
Yeah, so we shall wait and see on Sunday. Like I said, hopefully, like I agree with Barry said as well. We can't go and get draws against Arsenal and Chelsea. We're not celebrating them, but saying, okay, good point. If we then don't back that up with beating Everton, then it's almost like, okay, that's missed opportunities then, because you're not taking your opportunities against teams that are, I guess, below you in the table or not fighting for the same as what you are in and around the top 4. So, yeah, big game, but fingers crossed we get over the line on that one. There is confirmation of the Chinese international break. I thought it had to be because, like Slater said, there's 2 weeks between Atletico and Brighton. So
you were too polite there, Connor. It's not about a side that's not quite fighting. It's a side that's won 1 game all season. You can't be losing or drawing to a team that's won 1 game all season against the Liverpool side that, let's be frank, is absolutely
haven't won a single game themselves.
You know what I mean? I'm sorry. It's like, if you draw to them, you deserve to finish 5th.
Fair enough. So fingers crossed when we come around to do the match reaction on Monday, we're not sat here with anything other than that. Right, before we wrap up, Slater, you've got something. I'm going to bring something on screen. Do you want to explain what that is?
Yep. So in one of the big Facebook groups, which some people may or may not enjoy from time to time, that was not enjoy. Somebody popped up asking for input on United. They were looking for responses from teams of all the clubs because they put this together, the first women's football fan yearbook. It's got 4 pages on all WSL clubs. It's got 2 pages on all Championship and Scottish clubs. It's also got little bits on Irish and Welsh clubs as well. It's a pretty cool thing to exist, and yeah, it's got some good information on United, which has come direct from fans. It's got an all-time 11 in there, which is purely from fan responses. So if you see that, you can argue with it. There are some that I would disagree with and that I think would get some conversations going. But yeah, I think it's a great thing to exist. It's out there, available now. I got sent a free copy because I helped out. But yeah, I think it's well worth for any women's football fan who's interested in more than their own club or just the WSL to get hold
does
of
one
it.
go to procure one?
All the usual places. I think Amazon and other sites that sell things. I don't know.
Sites that sell
Where'd you buy
I'm
stuff?
off the super drug as we speak.
Where'd you buy stuff from other than Amazon these days? But yeah, it's a decent little book. It looks very professional, and the fanzine gets a mention in it as well, which is always a nice thing to see. So yeah, go and get one. And tell them, and then email the publishers and tell them you bought one because of me as well.
I was going to say, speaking of the fanzine, where can people get that and find that?
It's been a tricky one this issue because the 2 home games are evening games and everybody's routine changes on evening games. But the current one is issue 20. Issue 21 is being worked on. So I will have this at Everton away on Sunday. If you see me in the pub near Lime Street or in the ground or outside the ground, wherever I can manage to get. But then also issue 21 will be out for Brighton away, and that run of 4 games, which we've got a couple of weekend games of that one, which is always much easier to sell at. But you can also get it online. We actually look a bit professional now. I've got a new helper, Elle, who does the front covers now, and she's also helping with a new Instagram page, which is dedicated to the fanzine. So I have no idea what to do with my personal Instagram page now. I don't know how to do Instagram if it's not for the fanzine, and I'm struggling with that. But the new Barmy Article Instagram page is looking good and a bit more focused on giving you content that will hopefully be enjoyable. And there's a Facebook group and a Facebook page for Barmy Article where you can go and interact and find out what's happening when the new ones are coming out and how to contribute. We always want new contributors. We've got a good group of regular contributors now that mean I've got a good 6, 8, 10 pages every issue. But we always want different voices. Even if you disagree with me, that's actually a good thing because it has to give a wide range of opinion. It can't just be me and everyone who agrees with me. So always looking for more people to get involved. But yeah, if you Google it, there's a big cartel site to order it online, and it comes with a cool little wax seal on the envelope like that, which is always worth getting it posted for.
I was trying to see if I still have mine. I've just noticed I have got one of your Barmy articles here.
There we go. That's a recent one. Is that 19?
Yeah, 19.
That was Elle's first front cover, I think. That was the first time she appeared on it. So yeah, write your opinion for it, even if it's not a full article, even if it's just like a paragraph, kind of a letters page. We want to share as much fan views as possible, and buy it, get involved. It's the only dedicated print fanzine in women's football. Arsenal have the Gooner, which is a men's fanzine, which does issues that are for the women's team. And Chelsea did have a fanzine that I nagged Dean into doing, but they've gone online only now. So it is currently the only print fanzine dedicated to a women's team. And I've just seen Tyrone saying he'll write an article for it. Brilliant. Get in touch. You can write about whatever you want as long as it's related to United Women. And you don't even have to be good at writing. You might be, I'm not saying you're not, but you don't have to be. I think some people think, oh, I've got to write something, it's got to be good enough. I need to use all fancy words and send it in hoping that it'll go in. But basically, if you write it and it's not full of swear words because it's a women's football audience, it will go in. We will share your views and if it's a story of a memory of football of old or sometime throughout the 7-8 years of watching United, whether it's an opinion on a player, whatever you want to write about, get in touch, get it in, and then share it with your friends so that we can sell more copies as well.
I just want to say on the back of that, Connor, we're sat here and talking today about, people's last chances to vote for All for United, WFC, on the FCAs and all that sort of thing. But I do just want to take a moment to just sort of commend Andy for all of the work that he's actually done in getting this set up and putting it out there. A fanzine is a very, if we'll forgive the term, old-fashioned sort of thing. It's been around for many, many years, and it's something
traditional.
That's the word I think we're after. Yep, this is why you're in charge of doing that. Traditional. It's a very traditional thing around football grounds, and it's a dying breed. Everything is pretty much online now, and I think the fact that he sat there and came up with an idea, he's made it work, he's got people involved, and the way that's changed, looking at the front cover from that to where it was in issue 1 and issue 2 and issue 3, it's a massive change. And again, I think the effort that's gone into that to give people a chance and another place to air their views, to put their points out there, I think it is absolutely brilliant. And the fact that it's the only one really in the WSL and that he's helped other people to try and set theirs up, honestly, it's so awe-inspiring and inspirational to see the ways in which some people in women's football are really trying to elevate the game. And if I had a hat, what's a hood? I take my hood off to you on this occasion because honestly, it's absolutely brilliant. It really is. So massive congratulations, and I wish we could vote for you for an award. Is there such a thing?
Well, they did send me a message on Twitter about putting the fanzine forward for it, but I just didn't. I could have done.
I'll just have a chat. I'll have a chat with Charlie. He'll sort you out. Get an MBE or something. It won't be a problem.
So those words are much appreciated, Barry. One other thing I'd like to mention about what the fanzine has done. Just check the inside the back cover of that issue, Connor. Is that the one with the museum visit? So that's the one. So over the course of the 20 issues, I've interviewed 4 ex-players from the earliest one started playing for Man United ladies as they were in 1982. So she played from 82 to 94. And then there were players that played right up to the disbandment in 2005, who also coached beyond 2005. Coached players such as Izzy Christiansen and Danielle Turner when they were at United as kids, and found the next clubs when the pathway ended at United. So there's 4 ex-player interviews in the print magazines, but they are also archived on the Substack, so they are available to go and read. But that feature in the back cover of that is some of these women contributed to the women's exhibit in the museum that exists now. And annoyingly, it took me to nag the museum guy at Old Trafford to invite some ex-players to go and look at it, which you would think would be a pretty basic thing to do when they've given things that exist in there that sit in that exhibit. So there were 6 of them that I got in touch with and organised to go along. One of them brought another player. So there were 7 ex-players who went along, had a look at the women's exhibit, and then got a tour of the stadium. And it was just incredible to see them interact with each other, because some of them played with each other. Some of them never overlapped, but shared that experience and and chatted about that. And before we actually went in, they met in Red Cafe, and it was just standing kind of in the background and watching them all interact and share stories and memories and stuff was just brilliant. And one of the things in that is, so Michelle Wilcock, she was the first interview in issue 2. A pair of her boots are in the museum now, and she knew she was taking them in. She thought they were going in the women's exhibit, but when she got there, she was told they were going in a kit exhibit. So it's like different players' kit over the years, which it's only men so far. Michelle's are the first boots to go in there. And then on that day we went and she sees them. There's a picture in that part where it's Bobby Charlton's boots, George Best's boots, Michelle Wilcock's boots, and then Dennis Law's football that he's holding. And it's like, she walks away thinking, I'm basically a Busby babe. I'm right there within it's not just in this thing full of men's kit, it's within the Trinity. And there's a picture of her pointing at it and showing off the boots. The 1999 Mia Hamm boots, the first women's specific boots. And they're right there in the museum because I nagged, basically. Because I nagged the club to celebrate these women without which them and players of other teams over those years, there probably wouldn't be women's football anymore. It wouldn't be what we know it is today.
And again, this is so important. Like the level of work that Andy's put in on that as well. Like I work, as people know, for Stevenage, and I'm desperately trying to dig out and sort out as much history as we possibly can there. Even things as basic as setting up who scored the most goals, who's got the most appearances. You know, it's really difficult to find a lot of the information that goes back in women's football. Obviously, at the top level, it's not quite so hard. You find a lot more of it, but I just think this is going to be the next step. I think in women's football is trying to build that backstory, the sort of the missing archives. You know, it's a bit like people trying to find the Dead Sea Scrolls, I suppose. You know, it's like it's really difficult, but when they do get it, I think it's absolutely brilliant, and it really does help you to sort of get a picture as to where it all started, almost like the forgotten people, because so many people do just think that women's football started with a win in the Euros. And that was the end of that. So I think it's brilliant. I really do. And we were talking as well about that yearbook backstage, Connor, and we were saying how it reminded me of when you used to get Match Magazine and Shoot Magazine. I'm just really intrigued because I do like to throw these questions out to you, and I'm very aware that I'm going to ask this question now, and it could well, once again, alter my image of you that I have in my mind. But what would you have been, Match or Shoot?
Match, I was.
Oh, yes.
I've got a load in there.
Yes. Andy was a shoot guy.
Shoot for me. Yes. Shoot every week.
Maybe next show I'll get some. They're literally in that cupboard over there.
I then also said I bought a Match magazine a couple of seasons ago just so I could have the little wall chart with the shirts that you moved up and down that I always got really excited about for 2 weeks, and then it was way too much effort. So they just sort of stayed there and fell out every once in a while. But yeah, brilliant. Top work, Andy. Well done, mate.
Cheers. And I can see that it's 8:25. There are other anecdotes that I enjoy sharing that I've found out from these women who played for United over the years, which I'm not going to share now because it's 8:25, but I will come on and do that at a much more reasonable time at some point in the future.
That seems like a show. Nice bit of women's history in there.
Trust me, me and Slater have spoken about this.
2 weeks in, we've got the international break coming up. Give me a night off, mate. Get him in on a Monday.
Trust me, you will probably see it at some point, I hope, on AFU. And that was the last thing I was going to end the show off, because there was someone, Buzzing Time said about put a pin in the all-time 11 for postseason or international break. I've literally decided this while the kind of guys have been talking. I was thinking of doing this anyway, but we are going to do our draft again. And this international break coming. For anyone who remembers the draft last year, it's kind of like an all-time 11, but it's just Man United women players. There'll be 4 of us on the panel, and it is literally you get a selection of everyone. But as soon as someone has picked that player, no one else can have them. So it was a lot of fun last time. So we're going to be doing that again to see what the teams are and who can make the best United women 11. Obviously, we've gotten some new players now to add into the mix, which is going to make it even more interesting.
Hard because I can't choose Katie Zellum this year.
So even though the international break is coming, what I'm saying is we are going to have plenty of shows that will take us through that. Don't you worry about that one. But yeah, so I'll leave a lot of the links. There's so many links in the description to find out various different things. So make sure you follow Andy, and like I said, if you see him about at games, make sure you go over and get a fancy. because they are obviously worth buying as well. Because as we said there, there's not too many paper copies of things these days. It's very rare that you kind of, unless you buy a match program, you don't really get paper copies of things anymore. So it's nice to have. From that point of view, as I mentioned at the start, obviously our content awards, if you could vote for us on that one, it'd be greatly appreciated. It's about 48 hours left on that one. I'm not going to bring it all on screen again. You know where it is. If you've literally just tuned in, go to the start of the video. It's all right there. From that one, I'll tweet it again, I'm sure, at some point over the weekend. If you're going to the game on Sunday, if you watch on TV, obviously enjoy. Hopefully in a United win. We'll be back on Monday, 7 o'clock as normal for the match reaction. Where hopefully Charlie will be back again for that one. Have a good weekend all. Make sure you like in this video and subscribe if you haven't already. We shall see you guys on Monday.